Hello, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Purposeful Powerhouse podcast. And today I have a special guest with me. My friend Catherine and I are going to be talking about how you can turn leads into customers in 6 seconds. What? I know, I'm excited to learn how to do that so that you can be seen and heard as a visionary leader in your niche. So, welcome, Catherine. Lovely to have you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Yay. Okay, so we like to just jump right in. We want to get to know you. We'd love to hear a little bit of your story. So, maybe take us to a moment in time where things shifted for you, you had a realization, or whatever it is that led you to doing the work that you are doing today.
That's a great question. Well, I'm Catherine Beck. I am a voice coach and I'm also a voiceover artist. And I think that's important to say because it really is the foundation of why I teach what I do today. I take it from the voiceover perspective and being a performer for over 30 years on stage, on screen, and in front of the microphone. And being an entrepreneur as well. And when I moved into the online space, I recognized that while I was great at being other characters, I was not so great at being myself as a personal brand. And I really struggled with it. I struggled to be seen, to want to put myself out there. I noticed a lot of limiting beliefs getting in the way. And so I knew that I had to do something about it. And it was in my journey of finding my own voice and stepping into being a visionary of my brand that I wanted to support others in doing that. And I take it from the voice perspective. How can you own your expertise? How can you communicate to your audience and for them to see you as the leading authority that you are? Now we just have to communicate it to them.
Thank you. And thank you for your vulnerability on that. I think that's really important because I think a lot of times, we see leaders on social and we think, oh man, they just must have it all together and look at them go and da da da. And yet behind the scenes, there can be a lot of those questions and the doubts and the uncertainties, especially in your case, if you were used to being behind the scenes and now you're very face forward and forward facing with your business. And so I can see that that's a shift, and so kudos to you for being willing to step into that vulnerability and also for sharing that with us today. And so can we talk a little bit about that, because of course sound is energy and has a frequency, has a vibration to it. And so let's talk about communicating through the voice and the subtleties that people are picking up about us, and how we can use that in our conversations and our lives and anytime we're speaking, I guess, right?
Anytime you're speaking, the voice is our greatest asset, and yet it is our most underutilized tool. But here's the thing about your voice. And if you are an entrepreneur, then you're also a personal brand. And as a personal brand, you're not just the face of your brand, you're also the voice of your brand. And the thing about your voice is it does not lie, it transmits your inner thoughts, beliefs, your doubts, your hesitation, your neediness, your excitement, anything that you are thinking and feeling. It is transmitted through those sound waves, and your audience is picking up on it either consciously or subconsciously. They are affected through the sound waves, which are bringing out those inner thoughts and beliefs. So you may be saying one thing, but we're picking up a whole nother thing underneath the surface.
Ooh. That's
Woo is
exciting.
right. Yeah.
That's exciting and a little bit intimidating at the same time, right? It's like all the more reason for you to do the inner work, team.
Yep. That's right.
So, okay. So that's really quite a revelation, I think, because that's it, is that we can pick up stuff. And we've all had that experience of something just being a bit off, and somebody doing their offer or delivering their pitch or what have you. And you're just thinking, I don't know if I'm believing this or if I'm feeling it, or, you're just going to scroll away or what have you. And so let's talk about how we can begin to learn more about our own delivery and the emotion behind it, because mentally we can feel like, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be confident, here I am, this is a great offer, I know that. But then you're saying that it won't even necessarily be in like the wavering of the voice, or maybe it is that we kind of get that, because we've all had this experience. We do our webinar and we're like, yes, and we do the teaching, then we get to that last little bit and we're like, okay, now so I have this really great thing that you're really going to like it, and here you go.
Yeah.
And I mean 100%. I've done it. But
Yeah.
like, we talk about that, about how maybe our intention and our emotion plays into our voice and our delivery.
Big time. And emotion also plays into the deciding of the person whether or not they want to invest in you and to buy your product or your program or your service. So most people are pitching their stuff or going into that webinar, for example, speaking from logic. And of course, we need logic. We need to give context behind our stuff. And we need great messaging, but logic is not enough to sell your stuff. When somebody goes through, for example, a webinar, you're taking them through a journey. They need to have the understanding of what it is and what it's going to do for them, but there is an undercurrent. There is an emotional undercurrent that they need to be able to connect to in order to feel that you are their person, and then ultimately want to buy from you when you pivot to that pitch. So when we can sell with emotion plus the logic, that's where you're going to start to notice an increase in your sales and your conversions. You're going to feel a level of confidence with your stuff, and you're going to notice a shift in your audience as well, because now you're starting to relate to them. You're getting into their world and their perspective. But most of us make it about us. And so the more you can start to get out of your head and over to the other person from their perspective and bring in that layer of emotion, that's where we start to see a massive leap in that sales system and those conversions.
And that makes total sense. We, very likely have heard that people, they buy from logic and then they buy from emotion and justify with logic, right? And so
Yeah.
how can we begin to really use our voice as a tool to communicate that, as far as, the emotional connection that we have both with our offer and the transformation that we provide because of the journey that we will take them on? How do we begin to incorporate that beyond, I think we can go a little further than it's really great, you're gonna love it,
Right.
like that
Yeah.
excitement.
Yeah.
But like, I think what you're speaking to is more the subtleties of it, the subconscious layers to it. So maybe we can dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, there's a sales psychology, there's, persuasive communication, and I take that from my performance background, which is spending so many years as an actor and working with other actors on what we call text analysis. So we take the text, which is like your messaging, and that's, what people see. That's that outer layer, that's that logic. And there can be emotion in that as well. But then what is that deeper level? What are we really saying underneath that? How do we want our audience to feel when they hear the messaging? And so that can be a whole journey that can shift through the entire webinar from start to finish. Most people will keep it one note of, I'm really excited, I want to share my stuff with you. And then it's this level of excitement all the way through. Well, they're not there with you. You got to get them there. So we got to meet them where they're at. And so, how can we connect with them? Well, let's feel what they're feeling. And when they know that you understand what they're going through, you understand their pain, their problems, the mistakes they're having, and you understand the results and the transformation they want. That's how we start to build a journey with that emotional undercurrent. So it's a blend of logic with emotion and connecting to the audience in a very intentional way. And it's what I like to call messaging in motion. So it's taking what you say plus the how you say it, the delivery of it. And in your vocal toolkit, you have all these incredible things that you have at your fingertips to do that. Your volume, which very easily asserts your authority. The pitch at which you speak, melody, which allows them to connect with you, to feel like you're on the same level with them. The rhythm at which you speak, the ability to pause, the tone in your voice evokes so much emotion. So most of us will just speak in one note or a pattern, a habit of a way of speaking when you get into that sales environment. How can we now utilize our voice as our greatest asset to now serve our audience in making a decision that's right for them by the time that you get to your pitch?
I love that. And I really want to just make note of the way that you absolutely used that there. So
Well, thank
hopefully
you.
you caught that, because I felt myself when you started to explain all of that and you soften and then you talked about the melody and the voice. I really energetically felt myself lean into, oh, because there's a variance. And
Mhm.
I think it's so important for us to be aware of that. And I had a coach tell me that a few years ago, that we want to vary the speed and we want to vary the volume and we want to soften it a little bit, because it's like when we're watching something, it's kind of keeping our auditory attention when it's these different patterns. Because if it gets that like humdrum Charlie Brown parent sort of vibe to it, we easily check out, right?
Correct. That's
Okay.
exactly right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
And what I loved hearing you say is that there are, and of course it makes sense, the notes analogy, that's so beautiful, that we want to have that melody and that flux to it. And I think what's important for us to remember is that, when we're speaking and when, in the sales context, that there is that emotion to it, that we
Mm.
are really connecting to them where they're at on the journey. So I think it's having that empathy of delivery, because like, for example, I just keep hearing like Tony Robbins, because how he just like constantly rah, and he's yelling and he's such a big person. But I can't really call to mind that he ever has this like soft meekness to him, because that's not his personality, right? And that's not really his brand. But I'm thinking of, when you are so aware of your audience and your messaging and yourself and what you're hoping to have people experience in your program or your community or whatever it is you're inviting them into, you're really speaking to it from that place of authenticity and knowing and your own experience. And that's coming through in your communication, but also through your voice. So I think it's this important like subtlety, because obviously, as you said, the words that we're saying are important, but the actual energy and the vocal energy behind them is just as, if not even maybe more important, right?
It's so important. That vocal energy is everything. And I think of it like your fingerprint. It is what your voice is, what uniquely makes you you. And nobody can replace that. No one. And that's what people are attracted to. They're seeking you, not duplicating and matching what somebody else is doing. And I think a lot of times we go for that quick fix, that strategy that somebody else is doing, and how can we duplicate it for our business to be successful? But what works for one person will not work for everyone because we all have our own unique take. And if it's not aligned with you and who you uniquely are, there's always going to be a disconnect. And you're going to hear that literally in your voice. If there is any ambiguity, is that the word? Ambiguity? Is that how you say it?
I think so. Yeah, the second one you said.
There's any ambiguity. Oh, I can't say it now. You know what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
You will feel it, and so will your audience. So you may be thinking like, oh, I feel like something's off. Well, guess what? So does your audience. And that's when they're going to tune off. That's when they're going to go, she's not my person. He's not my person. They tune out, they move onto the next thing. So we want to see how can we finesse those moments so that we don't have that drop off. We don't have that disconnect. And how can we instantly draw people in within the first few moments that they enter our world?
So moments, yes. But we started off saying 6 seconds.
Yeah.
So do we only really have 6 seconds before we either are capturing somebody or they're starting to make decisions about us? Or how quickly does that start to happen?
It actually starts in 2 seconds.
Holy moly.
There was a study done, I think it was by Princeton University, and they did a study where people listened to the sound of someone's voice and had to determine things like likability, trustworthiness, all these sort of different things. And they were accurately able to assess all of that within the first 2 seconds of hearing somebody's voice. Now, I'm giving you 6 seconds. I'm being really nice, but it actually happens in 2 seconds.
Damn. It's
Yeah.
crazy how much things are speeding up, yeah? Because
Yeah.
we hear a lot about it in social media that we literally have that first 2 to 3 seconds to capture people's attention. And so I would imagine that this has a big part in that
Yes.
auditory perspective, but also, from the visual perspective, those short clippy reels that are super hot and take forever to
And
make for the 6
yeah.
seconds.
And that's where the 6 seconds comes in. So basically 2 years ago, I was the first time I was hired to be the voice of a brand, as voiceover people do. We get hired to be the voice of a brand. This was the first time I ever received 6-second ad scripts. Up until then, 15-second was like the norm for the cut down short version of an ad. I thought 6 seconds? That's so short. Who's going to make a 6-second ad? I did a bit of research and it actually evolved from TikTok in 2016. They started the 6-second ads. You see them all the time when you first go onto YouTube. There's an ad. You might be watching a video and then it cuts down. There's a little ad. Well, with the explosion of short form content, things like TikTok, now the 6-second ads were becoming more popular. So you might notice when you go onto TikTok, the first thing you see is a short ad, right? So that got me thinking, if big brands have tapped into this 6-second ad, what can us as entrepreneurs, online entrepreneurs, personal brands, learn from this? And that got me thinking, well, we literally, when we are creating content, we need to be able to assert our authority, show that we are the leading authority in what we do. We need to be able to connect to our audience, and we need to be able to sell our stuff and also sell that emotion, sell the feeling within those first 6 seconds that somebody hears our voice. And if you can do that, then they are your people. They're going to want to continue to listen.
Wow, that's incredible. When I was listening to you say that, I have a question because you mentioned earlier, we want to meet them where they're at, excuse me, but then also show them the possibility of what will happen when they go through the journey with you, the other side, of the outcome of your result or your program. So what about the disconnect there? Because you want to communicate from that place of this is how it will feel and this is, the excitement and where it'll take you. But if they're not there yet, how
Then
do
you
you
can't have
suggest?
the excitement. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. So, and this is where it got really interesting because I was in the voiceover booth doing these 6-second ads and I was like, wow, in one sentence, they're taking their audience from pain or problem to solution. So there's a journey there, even just in those 6 seconds. So you can't possibly sound excited when someone's in the pain and the problem. No, you gotta go, I hear you, I feel you, I understand you're in pain. But this is the solution. This is where we're headed. And I'm gonna take you there. I'm gonna be your guide.
Yeah, that's so interesting because it's all about, we talk about the accuracy and the conciseness. And so now we're distilling it down from paragraphs to sentences to now words.
Moment. Yeah.
Crazy. But I mean, that talk about a refinement. And obviously, like everything, it's a practice, right? It's
Right.
a practice and it's an art. And so I like that. And that really, it makes a lot of sense. And so what would you say as we're kind of wrapping up? What would you say? Because this really is us about communicating authentically as ourselves.
Mm.
Do you have any practices that you use or that you help people to use to get centered before they do some delivery? Because I can see the importance of them, if you will, being in their heart, being in their true self, being grounded. Because if we're in our head and we're in that sort of, I got to get this, I got to make it happen, ba 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 sort of energy, do you have anything that you could suggest as far as a way to drop in so that you are speaking from that depth of what you truly want to communicate?
Yeah, I think my favorite tip and one of the easiest tips to get started, to get out of your head and communicate more from your heart is to drop into your breath, your lower belly breathing into your diaphragm, because that will not only calm the nerves and help center you, but the breath carries the emotions. So if we're not actually breathing as we should breathe, if we've got that more shallow breathing, more of that, upper chest breathing where you tend to see your shoulders raise. We want to drop down into that lower belly breathing because that's going to help you connect to your emotions and allow your emotions to transmit out of your voice. That's going to allow for your authentic voice to be shared with your audience.
It really never ceases to amaze me, the power of the breath. I mean, we talk about it a lot on here because obviously we use it in yoga, we use it in positive intelligence, we use it as a grounding tool. And so to hear it from your perspective as the mechanism of delivery of the emotions that we are trying to communicate, it's like, well, did it again.
Did it?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Look at that universal life force energy communicated on the breath. Psh, no big deal. So, as we wrap up, tell us a little bit about the gift that you have for everyone, please.
Yeah, so I just created a new free training. It is called the 6-second Sell, and it's going to walk you through how to get people wanting to work with you within the first 6 seconds that they hear you speak. So I'll break down the three major components of that, which is connecting to your audience, speaking with emotion, not just that logic, and how to sound like the authority and expert that you are.
All in 6 seconds,
Oh,
ladies, gentlemen, and people. Isn't that incredible? So, last question. What does it mean to you to be a purposeful powerhouse?
oh, what a great question. What that means to me is living each moment with intention and authenticity. And when you can do that, you will always be a powerhouse from a purposeful place. That's how I love to live my life. And I think when you can get there, it is a journey, but when you can get there, it's a beautiful place to be.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that beautiful answer and for your voice and these amazing insights and for being here today. It was really fun to chat with you.
Thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome. Okay, so before we wrap up, make sure to take a screenshot and tag both Catherine and I and let us know your takeaways. Was it the breath? Was it the 6 seconds? What was it? Inquiry minds want to know because we want to know what landed for you, because that way we will be able to support you on your journey of implementing it into your voice and your delivery and all that good stuff. So definitely share that with us because I know it'll be really helpful for Catherine too. And until next time, thank you for being part of this community. And thank you for taking the time to think and move and breathe, right? We learned more about the breath there just a few minutes ago, and show up on purpose as your purposeful powerhouse CEO self so that you can go out and make the beautiful impact and income that you are destined for. Take good care, and we will see you or hear you or whenever you again very soon. Take care, everybody. Bye bye. Thank you.